our session by inviting Encik Muhammad Hasbullah bin Muhammad Fauzi, penolong pengarah kanan Suruhanjaya Persaingan Malaysia MYCC. Suruhanjaya Persaingan Malaysia MYCC dengan nama, even listening to the name is already really big things, yeah. So that's why Cik Hasbullah, it's a very big things even to us in Ilam, yeah, especially to myself and also to all our members. It's kind of a new things that we really want to learn, and we really want to see how could we uh, make this act as one of the best benchmarking for us to jump further. And thank you so much. I would like to also recognize the presence of Ms. Maha Lakshmi Mutu, also from this advocacy unit MYCC. Thank you so much for being with us, and also a few others. And to all landscape architects, thank you so much for being with us. I got to know from Miss Azhar that the line is actually very, very cramped outside, and they're now trying to solve an issues how to bring in a lot more participants online. So actually, it's actually the line is having some issues, but don't worry, just to tell you that this issues is something that is very dear to us, and everybody wants to know, everybody wants to hear what is the act of 712 and 713 from MYCC. So without further ado, once again, I would like to thank Cik Hasbullah and also MYCC for being here with us, yeah, with an open hearted for them to come and share with us the insights of this act, and they see the importance of our industry. Just to recap, before this, we celebrated Hari Lanskap Negara, ya, Cik Hasbullah, that was on the 2nd and on the 3rd of March this month. So this is basically in conjunction with still we are celebrating our landscape month, which is in March. So we're having this again this session to give basically a very strong foundation for our members, because after this, it's a transformation all around the globe, every countries in the world, that landscape industry has becoming very, very important during pandemic and also post pandemic. So everybody wants to do landscapes, even at home. And for the stakeholders, they are now thinking about getting our parks and gardens bigger. And also to the industry players, this becoming a very new norms. And we really have to see this as a very good opportunity. But then, what would be the Competition Act able to help us and facilitate us to prosper with the new norms that is coming up during this post-pandemic? So with that, Cik Hasbullah, I would like to over to you the session. And with a very big smile, we are basically very happy to have you with us. Thank you so much. Over to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Atia and Dr. Sohardi. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, very clear.
Oh, okay. All right. So before I proceed with my presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Hasbullah, and currently I'm a Senior Assistant Director in Malaysia Competition Commission (MyCC) under Investigation and Enforcement Division. And I was graduated as having a degree and also master in economics, and currently I'm doing a PhD in economics, addressing addressing the perspective on the competition economics as well as behavioral economics. So let me start my discussion today by sharing my presentation. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. So before I start my presentation, there's a disclaimer that I need to do. Basically, although I'm presenting my CC, but in terms of the view, it is my own view, and my CC should not be liable with my own view. And besides that, throughout the presentation, I will give you the perspective on how we work and why does this act comes into the picture, and how does it really shape the industry in general. So let us go through the first slide. So this is the presentation overview for today's session. I will discuss on the establishment of MyCC and then what is Competition Act 2010 and what is considered as anti-practices, including agreements as well as abuse of dominant position. And then what happened if we find that there is an infringement. Besides that, there are 5 case studies that I have prepared to use so that you can further understand what actually we do in terms of our enforcement of the law. And another 2 point is I will touch a little bit on the market review on the professional bodies. This market review has been conducted in 2013. And subsequent to that, that's why we engage with a lot of professional bodies to dismantle the skill fees, professional skill fees, around 2014 and 2015, especially for those who are not having any law back their fixing of the fees. And lastly, I will talk about the competition compliance program. So let us start with the first slide, the establishment of MyCC. So when does the MyCC establish? So the Competition Act 2010 and Competition Commission Act 2010 actually was gazetted in 10 June 2010. And because of that, so MyCC was established in April 2011. And there are some period whereby we are not taking any enforcement action. And starting from 1st January 2012, the Competition Act 2010 came into the force. And currently, we are one of the agency under the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. We call it as I-KPKT. And what is MyCC? MyCC is actually an independent body established under Competition Commission Act to enforce the Competition Act. Basically, the provision of the Act in terms of the anti-competitive behavior, everything was in the Competition Act 2010. Meanwhile, for the Competition Commission 2010, it is more on the role of the Commission itself and how do we do works and so on. And our main roles include advocacy, investigation, enforcement, market review, exemption, compliance, and leniency. Compared to other authorities, MyCC is quite unique because we are investigating people. We are also like a court. We listen to the parties, and lastly, we also issue our own decision. That's what we call. So, as compared to others, for instance, SPRM will investigate, and then they will bring that case to the court. So basically, the prosecutor will will take in charge on that particular case. And then lastly, what happened? The judge will decide. That's why we are quite unique as compared to other authorities. So currently, these are the members of the commission in the MyCC. Now, the chairman is Datuk Seri Syamuddin bin Yunus. And we also have a balance of people from public as well as a private sector, so that in terms of the perspective of the judgment as well as the policy will be balanced between private side as well as the public side. Now I'm talking about the essence of the Competition Act. So what is the purpose of the Competition Act? So it is the goal is to promote economic development by what? By promoting and protecting the process of competition. So I need to emphasize here, when I say that protecting the process of competition, it means that we are not protecting the competitor. Our objective is to ensure that the competition process is fairly in the market, so that there is an result. We can protect the interests of the consumers as well as to provide for matters connected therewith. And it is quite interesting in our law, when we talk about the consumers, we are not merely talking about the end consumers, which are the end buyer, but in the whole of supply chain, consumers can be defined as the intermediaries, person who actually buy things from the manufacturer and sell it to the end consumer. So this is also considered as consumer. And interestingly, for instance, in the case of farmer, farmer sell things to the monopsony company. So farmers also can be considered as consumers within the interpretation of the Competition Act 2010. So by comprehend this, I hope that it could give you a perspective. When we talk about the Competition Act 2010, it is not merely a self-centered understanding about how does it affect you within your own realm, but also to expand it to understand that what if other people do the anti-competitive behavior towards me? Can I go to the MyCC to lodge complaint and so on? The answer is yes. So this is the thing that you need to appreciate. So, and based on that objective, so what are the objectives that we want to achieve? So this is the theoretical framework. So when the sellers compete to sell product at competitive price, consumers get competitive price. When I say a competitive price, it doesn't mean that the price need to be low, because this is a misunderstanding. When we talk about the competition, the price must be low. But people seldom think that the competition is well when the price is very competitive, because it will reflect in terms of the value. That is first. Second, besides price, there is also another element of competition, which is innovation and also the improvement of product as well as the services. And because of that, the consumers will have more choices. And lastly, besides the consumer have more choices by having the innovation, the seller can provide a high and better quality product and services. And what will happen? The consumers will get the high quality product as well as services. And what is our scope? The scope of Competition Act 2010 is actually covers all activities within and outside Malaysia which have an impact on the competition in any Malaysian market. So any commercial activities, for instance, like yourself, landscape architect industry. So there is a commercial activity and it is carried out in Malaysia. So and because of that, it has impact on the competition in any Malaysian market. So it is fall under our scope of enforcement of the Competition Act 2010. In relation to outside Malaysia, for instance, there are companies outside from Malaysia, they are actually doing business in Malaysia, or they're actually doing business outside Malaysia, but the implication of their behavior actually have effect on the competition in Malaysia market, so it's also covered under the scope of Competition Act 2010. However, there are several acts or several commercial relationships which are not governed under our law because they have their own respective law. For instance, Communications and Multimedia Act 1998. So their licensee will not be governed under our law. So for number one, this is under MCMC, Multimedia and Communication Commission. Second, Energy Commission Act 2001. Their licensee also not governed under our law. This is EC. And then Petroleum Development Act 1974. And lastly, Malaysian Aviation Commission Act 2015, MEFCOM. So their licensee is also not covered under our law. Now, what is considered as anti-competitive practices? Because I think this is very important to explain so that people will not misunderstand when we talk about the competition. Does we are actually regulating competition or what? So basically, in our law, we are actually monitoring whether there is anti-competitive practices or not in the market. So when we talk about the anti-competitive practices in the market, there are two behavior that are looking into. First, we are monitoring whether there is anti-competitive agreements or not among the competitor in the market. So that is first. And second, we are also monitor whether there is abuse of dominant position or not, especially by the monopoly in that particular market, which oppress the consumers in that particular market. So when we talk about the consumers in that market, it is not necessarily that the end consumer, but the enterprises or the firms or the companies within the level of supply chain also being affected can be considered as consumer. Therefore, if there is any oppression by the dominant player in that particular market, we can also take action against them. I need to clarify this because of what? Because sometimes people misunderstood us as a competition regulator for competition, like say like a contest, like drawing contest and so on. So this is the thing that we need to address. So for anti-competitive agreements, it is stated in our law under Section 4.1 of the 2010. A horizontal or vertical agreement between enterprises is prohibited. So what does horizontal or vertical agreement means? I will explain in the next slide later on. But this is the thing that you need to understand. The prohibition is against the horizontal or vertical agreement between enterprises in which there is an object or effect of significantly preventing, restricting, or distorting competition in any market for goods or services. What does object means? What does effect means? So object, we can think like this. Let's say you drive a car and then suddenly there is a traffic light and it is red. If you just go against the red light, it means what? It means you are against the law, right? So in our law, this is considered as object. Means if you do that, it is actually an infringement under the Competition Act. However, about effect, we need to further analyze whether your conduct actually has a significant effect towards the competition in the market. So in order to do that, there are a lot of things to be done in terms of economy analysis and so on. So when I say about horizontal agreement, it is actually an agreement among the same players within the same level of supply chain. If you can see that here, retailer R1, R2, R3, R4 until R8 is considered as having horizontal interaction. Therefore, the agreement among these eight are considered as horizontal agreement. Second, vertical agreement. So when we talk about vertical agreement, we are talking about the vertical interaction between the players in different level of supply chain. For instance, manufacturer M2 is having a vertical interaction with the wholesaler W3 and W4, and W4 actually has vertical interaction with R7 and R8, retailer 7 and retailer 8. So if there's an agreement between these players, this is considered as vertical agreement. Now, next, what is considered as an agreement? From the perspective of competition law as compared to contract law, when we talk about agreement, it is not merely a written contract, but it can also be an arrangement or also understanding whether or not legally enforceable between enterprises and includes a decision by an association and concerted practices. So in your case, ILAM is considered as an association. So any decision by ILAM, for instance, if it is related to a horizontal agreement among the enterprises, it is also considered as horizontal agreement. Therefore, it can be investigated by MyCC if we think that there is an infringement under our law. So when we talk about the agreement, it can be informal agreement, communication via letters, email, WhatsApp, SMS, oral agreement, and in fact, if you just nod or wink to agree on certain things, so this is also considered as an agreement under our competition law. Next, so in our Competition Act 2010 also, it has we actually specify what is considered as anti-competitive object under Competition Act 2010. Like I say, when I talk about object, we are talking about if you go against the red light, it is considered as an act against the law. So these are the anti-competitive conducts that are considered as object under our Competition Act 2010. First, fix directly or indirectly a purchase or selling price or any other trading conditions, which include the agreement to fix certain price among the enterprises against the consumer or the seller or the buyer. So that is first. Second, you actually share the market. For instance, company A talk to company B and company C saying that for market in northern region, it should be fall under company A. For the southern region, fall under company B. For the western region, fall under company C, for instance. So this is also considered as a market sharing. And it also fall under anti-competitive agreement, which has an object under Competition Act 2010. Third, limit or control production, market outlets, or market access. For instance, let's say there are several manufacturers agree among themselves not to produce more than what they should produce in order to control the market or to kick out the competitor from entering into the market. So this is also considered as anti-competitive object under Competition Act 2010. And lastly, an act of bid rigging. So what is bid rigging? So normally when we talk about bid rigging, is about the manipulation of the procurement by the companies. In the sense that, let's say, the government actually issue a tender, and then there are several companies want to enter into that particular tender. So what happened, in order to provide an illusion of competition, they agree among themselves that why don't all five of us enter into this particular project, and what we can do in order for us not to be detected by the procurement officers are via manipulating the price, which means company A can lower their price as compared to company B as well as company C. And by having that, what happened, there must be a probability for us to win that particular project. So this is also under the provision of our law, and when we catch you, it is considered as an infringement. And there is a the implication if we found that you are performing an act of bid rigging. So because of this has been specified in our law, once we establish the anti-competitive object, MyCC does not need to examine anti-competitive effect in terms of the economic analysis and so on. So this is quite clear. So this is an illustration. There is a horizontal agreement among the enterprises. There's a market sharing, and the limitation of the production. As a result, someone cannot manage to get things. And lastly, the manipulation of procurement tender by the enterprises. An illusion of competition. Next, however, there is a relief of liability. For instance, if you think that no matter what, the only way to ensure that the economy efficient can be achieved is via doing the anti-competitive agreements, you need to fulfill all of these four criteria. First, you need to prove to us that this particular agreement actually has the significant identifiable technological efficiency or social benefits directly arising from the agreement. Second, the benefits could not reasonably have been provided by the parties to the agreement without the agreement having the effect of preventing, restricting, or distorting competition. Means you need to outweigh the benefit as well as the harm to the competition. And the detrimental effect of the agreement on competition is proportionate to the benefits provided. And lastly, the agreement does not allow the enterprise concerned to eliminate competition completely. Means if this agreement takes into place, you need to ensure that this particular agreement not eliminating competition completely. So in order to prove it, you need to tell us all of these four requirements are fulfilled. If you are only fulfilled three, and then we cannot consider that is a relief of liability on your side. abuse of dominant position. So abuse of dominant position is also one of the anti-competitive behavior under Competition Act 2010. So what is considered as abuse of dominant position? So in our act, we say that enterprise is prohibited from engaging whether independently or collectively in any conduct which amounts to an abuse of dominant position in any market for goods or services. And what is considered as dominant position? A dominant position is considered as when an enterprise or more enterprises possess such significant market power. And again, how do we define market power? Normally in our guideline, we stated that if based on your market share, it is 60% and above, it is an indication that you are having a dominant position. And by having the significant market power, you have the power to adjust prices, outputs, or trading terms without effective constraints from competitors. When we talk about adjust price means you can just manipulate your price in the sense of if new competitor come into the market, you can just lower your price without having constraint with the competitors. And then when they out from the market, and then you simply raise the price. And sometimes you have the power to control your output. You can simply lower your output. You can simply you can simply increase your output without having the constraint from the competitors. And in fact, they can the dominant player can in fact adjust the trading terms. For instance, they might have a favorable terms towards them, which might oppress the consumers at another side of the supply chain. And some misconception among the people is certain people think that if an enterprise or a company has a dominant position or having a monopoly position, it is an infringement under our law.
Tu biasa je.
Sorry. Okay, okay. So, but in fact, in our law, we are not stating that having a monopoly is an infringement under Competition Act 2010. But we are saying that if you are dominant, if you have a monopoly position, it means that you need to observe your behavior so that you are not destroying the competition in the market or manipulating others for your own benefit. And what are kind of conducts that has been stated in our law in terms of the abuse of dominant position? There are several conducts. First, unfair purchase or selling prices or unfair trading conditions means they are putting some trading conditions which are not unfair to other consumers. Predatory behavior in the sense of if this particular company can sense there might be an entry of other players into the market. So what happened? They can just lower the price to ensure that player will not enter into the market. So this is also predatory conduct. Applying different conditions means apply different conditions to other players. It seems like there's a discrimination against these people. Refusing to supply, not to supply things to the people that are really need things. Limiting or control the production of the product or services is also considered as abuse of dominant. And lastly, tying or bundling. Since let's say you just want to buy product A, but what happened? The dominant player tie product A with tie B means you need to buy it together. Meanwhile, actually you don't need product B, you just need product A. And because of this tying and the dominant player is the only supplier of that particular product, so you need to buy that thing. So this is also considered as abuse of dominant position. What happens if we find that there is an infringement of the competition law? So in our case, if there is an infringement, we can first issue cease and desist order. You need to stop your conduct. Don't do that anymore. So that is the first thing. Second, we can specify steps how to bring that particular infringement. And lastly, we can impose financial penalty, maximum 10% of the worldwide turnover. So when I talk about worldwide turnover, I talk about it's a globe revenue. Let's say, for instance, let's say there's a company operate in Malaysia, but having their presence at the international level. So let's say their revenue in Malaysia is only 10 million. But in worldwide, their revenue is around 100 million. So when we think about when we say the financial penalty can be imposed maximum 10% of the world turnover means we can impose 10% out of their 100 million ringgit Malaysia, for instance. So it will be around 10 million. So this is the risk if you are against the Competition Act 2010. Now, I will discuss further on several case studies based on our cases that we have investigated, so that you can further understand and appreciate why it is a problem. I will start with the case study one, Musk and Air Asia. So actually, there's a collaboration agreement, I think 11. So because of that collaboration agreement, Musk actually withdrew Firefly's operation in the following routes. KL Kuching, KL Kota Kinabalu, KL Sandakan, as well as KL Sibu. And because of that, Musk was to be only a full service premium carrier, while AirAsia and AAX will be a regional low cost and medium to long haul low cost carriers. So in this particular regards, what happened, there's a market sharing agreement between Musk and Asia. They actually divide their business segment, whereby Asia will focus on the regional low cost, while Musk will focus on full service premium carrier. And during that time, Musk has a Firefly operation. And because of that, Asia no longer has the competitors for the in the following routes: KL Kuching, KLKK, KL Sandakan, and KL Sibu. And because of that, they raise the price in these particular routes. And unfortunately, in 2011, the Competition Act 2010 is not enforced yet, because remember, I have presented earlier that our Competition Act was enforced in 2012, 1st January 2012. However, there is a spillover effect of this particular agreement. Because of this particular agreement happened in 2011 and it is continuously happened in 2012, therefore, we managed to punish them. And as a result, the amount of financial penalty imposed on the target enterprise are 10 million respectively. 10 million to Musk and also 10 million to AirAsia. And currently, the decision against them are being appealing by them at the Court of Appeal. Next, case study 2, container depot operators. So this case study is quite interesting because there is a combination of element of agreement, which is horizontal agreement and also vertical agreement. In this particular case, what happened, these four companies are agreed among themselves to fix price by increasing from 5 ringgit to 25 ringgit. So they are colluding among themselves. So they are having a cartel among themselves. And what happened? There is another player at the upstream level, which is considered as container chain. So basically, the container chain is a company that facilitate the digital transaction of the company's transaction. So this container chain actually approached these guys, these companies, and saying that actually you can manage your cartel discussion by having me into the picture via using my system. And because of that, there is a vertical agreement between all of these four players with container chain. And because container chain facilitate the execution of the horizontal agreement, they also being punished by MyCC in this particular decision. As a result, the amount of financial penalty imposed to them are around 645,000 ringgit Malaysia. And besides that, we instruct them to cease and desist from implementing the agreed rate, and the DGC, depot gauge charges, and the rebate or any similar clause shall be removed from the agreement, and they need to provide undertaking, put their statement saying that they are no longer doing these things and so on, and we said to them, all future prices and other trading conditions should be determined independently by you, not by discussing among yourself. And if you fail to comply with all the remedy actions from second point until the sixth point, we will impose additional financial penalty of RM 7,000 ringgit per day. So this is container depot operator case. Next, this is the newest case that has been what we call it that has been issued by MyCC in terms of their decision. So how does it happen? So in this case, what happened? There are three parties here: insurance companies, and consumer, as well as PM workshop. So what happened? End consumer will purchase insurance premiums with insurance companies, and insurance companies will give the insurance coverage to the end consumer. And if anything happened to the car, the end consumer will send the car to be repaired to the PM workshop. And as a result, PM will return the repaired car. So in terms of relationship between end consumer, insurance companies, as a PM workshop with the end consumer is okay. There is nothing fishy. However, there's a fishy relationship here between insurance companies and also PM workshops. So because insurance companies are paying their money to the PM workshop, what happened? They agreed among themselves to fix trade discount for parts for 6 vehicle mix, which is Proton, Pro2, Nissan, Toyota, Honda, and NASA, as well as 15% discount for Proton, Saga, BLM. They have discussion, they agree on the rate. So what happened, most of the enterprises actually fixed the rate at 25% and 15% in order to pay the claim value to the PM workshops. And in addition, what happened, they also fixed the repair labor hourly rate set at RM 30 ringgit per hour. Although they said that it is a minimum, but some of them actually fixed the rate at 30 ringgit per hour. In fact, that rate can be increased further. So this is a problem of this case. And because of that, PM Workshop has been deprived in negotiating the rate with the insurance companies. While in fact, insurance companies, because they are big, they can negotiate individually with the PM workshops. So because of that, as I said, it falls under section 41, section 42A, which is the price fixing agreement among the insurance companies. That's why it is fall under the infringement of the Competition Act 2010. And what is the implication of doing this? We instruct them, please stop from implementing the agreed parts trade discount and labor rate per hour. It means that, yes, you can have the figure and so on, but please determine it individually based on your own cost assessment, based on your own reference price and so on. But don't discuss this matter among yourself, because if you discuss this matter among yourself, there will be an implication under our law. And because, let's say, for insurance companies, actually they have their reference price. They know how to assess things. Why should you fix by agreeing among yourself? So this is a problem, and we say that please stop doing this. Because of that, we say that please determine the future parts rate discount rate independently, as well as the labor rate, and taking into consideration of the COVID-19 situation. So all of the enterprises, which are the insurance companies, has been punished. We imposed financial penalty in total around 130.2 million in total, and we also give them a moratorium period up to 6 months, and end up of moratorium period, they can pay a monthly installment up to 6 months. And currently, they are appealing against decision at Competition Appeals Tribunal. Next. This is another case study about abuse of dominant position by one of the dominant player in this particular market. So this case is on MyEG. So we take actions against MyEG, if I'm mistaken. We issued a final decision in 2017, if I'm mistaken. So what happened? MyEG actually has a dominant position at the market for PLKS, which is actually a permit for foreign workers. And because of that, for foreign worker employers, in order for them to renew the insurance for their for foreign worker, what happened? They will go to MyEG, and MyEG is the dominant player at the upstream level, which is market for PLKS, permit foreign workers. And then what happened at the downstream level, MyEG also has its presence at the insurance companies level, whereby they actually operate via RHB insurance, and there are also other insurance companies. And because of this presence, they say to the employers, foreign worker employers, they say, if you want to ensure that your what we call it, your process will be faster, you need to use our own insurance, which is RHB insurance. If you use other insurance companies, it might be delayed. Because of that, what happened? The revenue for MyEG at the insurance segment increased tremendously as compared to other players, which are the insurance companies. And because of that, it seems like due to the favoritism of the MyEG, actually it distorts the competition at the downstream level in that particular market. As such, based on our assessment, we found that actually MyEG actually had abused its dominant position by applying different conditions to equivalent transactions with its competitors, which actually harmed the competition in the downstream market for the sale of mandatory insurance for the permit pekerja asing. Okay, so what happened to MyEG? And because of that, we instruct them, please provide efficient gateway for all of your competitors, because now what happened, you are having dominant position at the upstream level. And because of you are the only player, insurance companies doesn't have choice. No matter what, they need to deal with you. Now what happened, you are favoring your own companies, which is RHB Insurance, by having the shares and so on. And because of that, we said to them, please provide efficient gateway for all of your competitors so that there is no conditional requirement for the employers merely to use your services because of what? Because you say that it is faster as compared to other insurance companies. So it will not create a fair competition in that particular market. And because of that, they managed to provide an efficient gateway to all of the competitors. And they also need to provide an undertaking. They need to state their decision. They are required to provide a statement stating that they comply with the decision by the commission. And lastly, the commission imposed financial penalty at 2 million, around 2 million, and daily penalty was imposed to MyEG daily 7,500, as long as you are not providing an efficient gateway. The daily penalty will be counting until you manage to finalize it. So in total, the penalty imposed to MyEG is around 9.6 million. But it is quite interesting here because of what? Because in the MyEG case, PM is the complainant. But in the PM case, which is the car insurance companies, we are investigating PM. So we are not picking the better. So if you are thinking that this particular player is actually doing the bad things, and then we go to that player. If you yourself, although you have been what we call punished by us, and you think that actually there are the players actually doing something bad in this particular market, and then you can come to us. So this is a dynamic when we are tackling enforcement thingy in our commission. Lastly, this is the later decision issued by the commission, which is referred to DagangNet. So what happened? DagangNet actually is the sole concession holder in Sistem Maklumat Custom. And what happened in its exclusive agreement with the software provider, which is Rank Alpha and so on, they stated that during the tenure of agreement, Rank Alpha shall not engage with other than DagangNet for the EU Custom Service Provider Program. This case is quite complicated in the sense of, okay, DagangNet actually is the current concession holder in the Sistem Maklumat Custom. And custom actually has a vision to have another system which they call as U-Customs. Okay, so in this particular system, U-Custom market, what happened? Dagang net shall not be the only concession holder in this particular U-Custom market. Okay, so it is expected for U-Custom market to be kicked off around 2016 and 2018. But until now, we have been informed that this particular system is not yet to be ready to be kicked off. So what happened? DagangNet actually has an agreement with all of its software providers saying that during the tenure of agreement, means in terms of tenure agreement is 3 years on the basis of 3 years or 5 years. Okay, so what happened during the tenure of agreement, Brand Alpha, which is the biggest software provider in this particular market, shall not engage with the player which has the same level of playing field with the DagangNet in the U-Custom market. So there's an overlapping period there. For instance, the tenure of agreement between Brand Alpha and DagangNet is between 2015 until 2018, while the U-Custom is expected to be kicked off in 2017 up to 2021, for instance. And because of this tenure agreement, what happened? If the U-Custom is kicked off in 2017, what will happen? Nobody will go to a new player. And as a result, the inspiration to have a competition in that particular market will be distorted because of what? Because of the extension of the agreement. So it's a very creative way to capture the market in that sense. And because of that, we found that because there is a minute stating that and so on, their projection on how to win the competition unfairly. And because of that, we are saying to them, please stop from doing this. And fortunately, during the course of investigation, in the end of the course of investigation, they actually come to us and state that they actually stopped doing this by issuing the alternative solution to the software providers, which we are agreeable with that. And also, they need to submit monthly progress of the enrollment on the competition compliance program to us, so that we can understand their that they actually provide a training to them, to their employees and so on. And lastly, the total amount of financial penalty imposed to them is around 10.3 million after we take into consideration the COVID-19 situation. Now, another aspect of the Competition Act. So before this, I'm talking about the enforcement side, which is the investigation against the anti-competitive agreements as well as the abuse of dominant position by the players in the market. In our law, it is also stated that we can conduct a market review to understand how does the market work. So in order so during the course of market review, we actually try to find any features that might have an element of anti-competitive behavior, or they might have an element that can prevent, restrict, or distort competition in the market, in which somehow the enforcement work might not be an efficient tool to deal with. It might be an efficient tool to deal via the policy mechanism and so on. So that's why this market review is very important to be conducted. So in 2013, actually, we have conducted a market review on professional bodies, and a little bit of background, because we need to remember Malaysia. I can say that although we established in 2010 our Competition Act 2010, actually we are lag behind as compared to the rest of the world. For instance, in ASEAN, now almost all of the ASEAN countries are having the competition law regime, except Myanmar. Except Cambodia. So they are still struggling to come up with that law, and expected to be finalized before 2025, because the ASEAN inspiration is for all of the ASEAN members to have the competition law in each country respectively before 2025. And as compared to other country, let's say for US, they actually established the antitrust authority since late 19th century. And in fact, Japan, they have we call the FTC, Japan Fair Trade Commission, established around 14 to 50 years back. So because of that experience, they actually found that the fixing scale fees by the professionals have the element of anti-competitive conduct in terms of the anti-competitive agreement. And by having this background, we actually conduct a market review in the sense of to identify which association actually has the law to allow them to fix the scale fees and which association do not has the law to fix the scale fees among them. So based on that, in terms of the scope of study, there are 131 bodies or associations that we examine, and we group them into 34 sectors. And the findings are as follows. Actually, you can read in our market review. You can just download it via our website. So there are 4 findings here. First, there are sectors actually empowered by their legislation. Means they have their legislation stating that you actually can fix their your scale of fees. So because of there are laws, our act is stated that there's some sort of legislative requirement, there's some sort of governmental authority which we cannot simply go against because it has been specified in the law. However, of course, we have a consistent debate on this, whether we should abolish or not, and so on. But it's a policy and high rank level discussion, and it is not for today's session. Next, there are also another finding shows that governing authorities are empowered by specific provision to fix scale of fees, but have yet to do so. Means they actually have been allowed to fix their scale and to fix their fees under the law, but they are not doing it. I don't know why, but there must be a reason behind that. Third finding is there are actually some bodies are given the general power to regulate the sector, but not scale of fees. So means they have the power to regulate their own sector, but it is not stated that you can fix your scale fee. So this is also something that we look into, whether there is an element of anti-competitive conduct or not if they are fixing the price. And lastly, the fourth point is there are actually bodies or associations that fix the scale fees, but they are not empowered by any law, in which, unfortunately, ILAM fall under this category. And because of that, we issued the policy advice, and not policy advice. We issued a letter to ILAM, stated that please abolish your minimum scale of fees, because based on our findings, it is against the Competition Act 2010. As I say that why it is against Competition Act 2010, because it has been specified in the section 42A, which is there is an element of price fixing. Although you don't have the intention to fix the price, but against by observing the conduct itself, it is considered as a price fixing. Next. So this is all about the market review on the professional bodies. All right. So competition. This is about competition compliance program. What should you do in order to comply with our guidelines? Actually, you can just download from our website, but I will just give you the perspective. First, the MIC recommends that business to first ensure your business understands its obligation in the Competition Act, ensure your employees understand Competition Act, conduct regular mandatory training courses, which I think is a good thing ILAM do today. Conduct a training course for what we call it for all the landscape architect, which I believe somehow because somehow without understanding this thing, we might misinterpret the Competition Act itself. Next, adopt a culture of competition compliance in your business. review your current business arrangements and practices and identify any risk areas. You need to identify yourself whether in terms of your business arrangements, is there any anti-competitive agreement among yourself or not, whether you are dividing the market or not, whether you are fixing price among yourself or not. So this is the thing that you need to consider to yourself. And also take any necessary steps to deal with the risk you have identified. Create competition law compliance manual, appoint a compliance officer, conduct regular reviews, attend your professional or trade association meetings. It's fair, it's fine to have a meeting among yourself to discuss about the quality of the project and so on, issues related to your particular industry, but please do not discuss commercial sensitive aspects of the matter, such as pricing, production, as well as standards. Like sometimes there are also things happen when they come to the association meeting, they just discuss about this particular tender. You should enter it. For another tender, just give it to me. So this particular discussion is also considered as anti-competitive agreement, which need to be avoided if you are meeting with each other in the association meetings and so on. Next, make business decision about price and quantity independently. Don't talk to your competitors in relation to that. Do not reach any agreement with your competitors regarding price, markets, limitation on production, as well as which company will bid for particular tenders. Compete to the best of your ability in your market. However, if you are a dominant player, please don't abuse your position. And make sure that your employees understand the investigation power of the MyCC. We have the power. We can come to your premise and we can just get everything, the documents or any communication in terms of laptop and phone from you guys. If we are carrying out our investigation, and in fact we can have a warrant from the court to just enter into your premise. And please remember that the cost of implementing a compliance program will be far outweighed by the benefits. Remember, I said that there is a cost of finding of infringement. You might be punished up until 10% of the worldwide turnover from your revenue. So you can go to our website. There are several guidelines there. You can read on your own. So we have guidelines, financial penalty, up until leniency regime, as well as this is the latest guideline, although it's a 2019, but it's the latest guideline issued by us. It is in relation to the what we call the intersection between competition law as well as intellectual property, because there are some gray areas that need to be addressed from our perspective in relation to the intellectual property regime. And in relation to the leniency regime, I can explain a little bit in the sense of, okay, let's say you involve in cartel or you involve in bid rigging and suddenly you think that this thing is not right, you can just come to us and you say to us, you give all the information that is required to state that actually there is a bid rigging conduct or cartel agreement among yourself, and if the commission satisfied, you might get 100% reduction of financial penalty if we find that there is an infringement of the law. So go and read all of the guidelines. It can be helpful for you to understand further about MyCC. And lastly, you can enroll into our e-learning program. We launched it in 2019. You can self-assess yourself, and in the end of the assessment, you can get a digital certificate. You have the compliance program in that. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Encik Hasbullah. I think there are lots of things for us to chew today. With all the case studies and policies that you table to us, and the case studies that makes us understand more and makes us also deprive why Ilam now cannot use the Ilam scale of fees. But just to tell you the truth, the situation, Encik Hasbullah, once we received the notice from MYCC, and we definitely don't ask any questions. One, because we know that we don't have act. And secondly, we don't have 10 million to pay to you. So that's why we reserve our case immediately. No questions. So, but now I believe after a few years that our members are not using the Ilam scale of fees. and they feel that there are some limitations that actually happens on ground. So allow me to read out one question that we basically received from our members. Hold on, yeah. So this is basically from Puan Noliza Muhammad Yusof. So she said was you okay, Encik Azbullah, there's one question from our members.
Okay.
Very important figure in landscape architecture industry. So she said in general culture, competitive price are always made low. When like what you said just now, when it comes to competition, it has to be low price. To us culturally, we thought that is competition. Okay. And that's what our current situation in landscape industry. Once low price means you are in the list to win. How this statement relates to our current practices. So because it is very much in our culture, when it comes to competition, that means someone has to put a very low price in order to survive. And generally, this is what's happening. So without really understanding the real spirit of Act 712, 713, so some are taking advantage of this competition. Based on your case study, we are very happy because these are some of the organizations that has been taken care of. That means they have to pay their penalties and whatnot because we are all the consumers and the user. But then when it comes to our industry, we thought that other parties, which is we can say the dominant parties or dominant position organization, is taking advantage of this MYCC Act in order to basically press us to give them the lowest price that they could achieve without respecting to the professional services, educational practice, and also we call it the man hours or whatsoever. No, you can get this project as long as you give us the low price. So how MYCC see this as a competitive situation? Could you please explain to us? Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Atia, for that question. So, again, from my CC side, we are not regulating price. So, but we are looking the response in the market on how does the dynamic interaction between the players happen in that particular market. In that sense, again, there's another question, which these players need to think how long they can sustain in giving the low price.
Mm. Mhm.
Because in the end, what happened if they are using the same tactics to give a lower price just to give to get project and so on, there is another implication later on, because price must translate the revenue obtained as well as the profit obtained by that particular enterprises.
Mhm.
So that's why, from our perspective, if it is a player who actually don't have the dominant position in that particular setup, in the end, the market will punish themselves. They will go out from that market. But the concern happen if it is being carried out by the dominant player in the market. Like I say that the dominant player, one of the abusive conduct is the predatory behavior. What does the predatory behavior means? Predatory behavior means they actually try to lower their price in order to kick out the competitor from the market so that they can reap the benefit later on by having a high price later on. So from our perspective, again, there are two perspectives. Which perspective we are looking into? Is it a normal competitive process in the market in which this player is not dominant and in fact the market will punish themselves out from the market? And another perspective is about whether this particular player actually has a dominant position in that particular market, which may raise a concern on the abusive conduct.
Yeah, I would have agreed with you that for those consultants who may put up a very low price, then in the long run, they might not be able to survive in the industry. But then looking at the years that we are introducing the act, which is from 2015, now it's 2021. So within I think less than 10 years, everybody is struggling and you don't really see the effect. For them to survive, because especially during this pandemic, Jazbullah, sometimes it is not. Even to survive as a consultant, you need to do something. So it's a pressure. Because salaries of the staff need to be paid, and the project, they need the project. So whether you are making big revenue or small revenue, as long as it is revenue, it's already good. So, and our concern here is that why these dominant parties, for example, in this case, the developers was allow this to happen. Don't they also subjected to MYCC Act? As if like now they are the player, they can do anything. So I hold the money and I hold you. You want this project, you give me the lowest price, or I will kill you from the industry. So our concern here is that don't they themselves subjected to this act? Because the way they behave is something like, I'm the king, I'm the master. So how do you see this happen in the industry?
Okay, right. Dr. Tia, understood. So, in relation to that, if based on the assessment later on, we can find that there is actually a dominant position by this player. Of course, they are subject to our law. There is no escape route. As I said that, the only person that can escape from our law is actually somebody fall into the laws of MCMC, MEFCOM, and so on, as well as
Yeah.
someone who actually has the provision of the law, like other professional bodies that have their own law and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is that Azbullah, our pressure is that among these for example, the professional in built environment industry, namely to name a few here, for example, the architects, they already have their own architects act, the planners, the engineers, even the surveyors. So we are a very tiny little dots among them, who actually, if you look at our services, we do our work more than what they are doing in terms of responsibilities, in terms of the services that we have to produce and whatnot. But we are being pressed because we don't have act, so we just can accept anything. And in fact, just to share with you, another, we call it a predatory behavior, is also being is now coming to appear in this built environment industry. That means Ilam or landscape architects, you don't have act, you can't even do your job. You just be a draftman, do our landscape, our landscape plan, or we will do the submission and whatnot. You just be in our office, do the plan, and we will be the submitting person, the one who's responsible. I believe that is another predatory behavior, just because they have act in place and we are not. So how do you see this for us to survive? Over to you, Cik Asbullah.
Okay, right. Thank you, Dr. Atia. In relation to that, when we talk about the predatory behavior, we are not merely talking about price also. We are also talking about another conduct that might consider as a predatory behavior in the sense of by limiting certain scope of the people from doing things. And again, we need to distinguish between whether this is abuse of dominant conduct or actually an anti-competitive agreement conduct among the certain group of the people to kick out another group of the people from the market. So that's why from this perspective, I can say that if it's a group of the people doing things, it might have the element of anti-competitive agreement among themselves, to agree among themselves, not to bring another group of the people into the market because they're afraid that the market will be congested. And when the market is congested, and then they can dictate when this group of the people is kicked out from the market, they can dictate whatever they can. So there is a concern, but again, from the investigation enforcement side, we need to further assess. I can say it for sure.
Of course, yeah. In fact, what we are today, basically, we are very happy because Hezbollah, at least you know what Ilam is doing, and our members are here to also understand, like you said, the act and whatnot. But then there are lots of challenges that we are facing, Cik Hasbullah, because as I mentioned to you in the beginning, everybody wants to do landscape architecture because to us, Cik Hasbullah, we believe that landscape architecture is a future profession because before this, people don't see what landscape is all about. But after pandemic, definitely there'll be lots of landscape projects, inshallah, yeah. So we pray for our country economic grows really well. And now people see the potential and we don't have acts. We cannot use our Ilam scale of fees. We are the players, the main players. So the main players is not being given a fair justice in our own industry. So these are basically the things that we are concerning with. I have one question for you, Cik Hasbullah. This is one from Zainul, Ilam Zainul. So the question is that, or do I have let's say architect Zainul here? You can always switch on your microphone and interact with our panel. Let's say architect Zainul, are you here? Would you like to read out your question?
Yep,
Or you
I'm
want me
here.
to do so? Oh yeah, maybe you can. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Over to you. Yes.
Hi,
Please.
Chesbullah Zainal from Ilam.
Mm-hmm.
Just the question is about because landscape fees normally is based on landscape cost. So in development and the landscape cost is lower compared to others profession. So compared to architect fees, they are based on overall cost. So when we're doing our job, we need to call tender. We need to check all the drawings from MNE and CNS. So actually, it's a lot of work compared to the architects. And then how can our landscape fees based on overall cost?
Mm-hmm.
Can we fight for that?
Uh, from my perspective, I don't find it as an issue in relation to that because again, it's just a business arrangement. Whether you want to fix fee merely based on the landscape cost or overall cost, it depends on your creativity. As long as you are not fixing you're not fixing the price among yourself, that's fine. So
Okay.
go ahead.
Because
Yeah, thank you
well,
so much. Yep. And we need
yeah,
that. We need that certainty. Yeah.
because when we do that, client will ask, hey, where your fees proposal is coming from. So
Mm,
which is the guideline that we are following you. So that's why
mm,
we cannot have what they call it, the fees based on the overall cost. Even though landscape cost is also quite small.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah. How do
again,
you do that? Yeah.
it is from my perspective, it's merely a business arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes if a client not satisfied and so on, and then they can always find other players too.
Mm-hmm.
But again, of course, although people talk about price, but they need to mind about quality too. They can't simply pick the lowest price without having a good quality. It doesn't make sense. As we will talk about landscape, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, I believe Cik Zainul, let's
Yep.
say kita Zainul
Okay,
and
thank you.
Cik Hasbullah, thank you so much. So basically this is giving another light for Ilam and also we have representative from Jabatan Lanskap Negara, Cik Hasbullah, to see how could we amend the situation because I believe that this is basically a culture that was developed before. And with this MYCC talk today, we know that this can be changed because before this, we don't know whether we can change or we cannot change. We just follow with the culture. So, all right, we take up from here. Like I said, Kita Zainal is also one of our council members under professional practice and also social unit. So we can relook at this situation in terms of not fixing the fees, but to look at the baseline for us to put up our fees, not in terms of percentage or whatsoever, but the baseline. So that can be done. And to all our members, this is a very good thing that we learned today. And yes, Ilam has got to go through with this, talk further with MYCC, of course, and also with the ministry and our stakeholders among other professionals to see, look, we are doing the same thing like all of you, but then our fees is only this much. And even this much, the cake is very small. Still, people are looking at our cake because our cake is tastes better than the rest. Maybe I'm just joking, Cik Azbul. I'm just joking. Okay. Okay, don't get too serious, okay? But I think this is a very good thing that we learn. There are so this act is basically giving us a lots of flexibilities for us to move with our professional services. Not only the fees but also our scope of work. Yeah. So we have Dr. Suhadi here. So Dr. Suhadi, do you have any question to Cik Azbullah in relation to our talk today?
Yeah, I just want to, of course, I have a lot of questions, but I think some of the questions I need to refine further lah.
Mhm.
But now when we're talking about the price, we're always talking about how actually a group of uh, entity actually fixing their price. So the clients have to follow or the consumer have to follow. How about if the entity that receive the services try to fix the price? For example, the, the other way around, meaning that probably the developers try to say that for the landscape architect, we set your fee at this level because we don't have the fee structures, right? So they try to somehow oppress us, saying that your fee is like this, right? So is it going to work also for the competitive act,
Okay,
competition law?
Dr. Suardi, remember I present the case study on the Piam case, insurance companies.
Mhm.
Actually, what happened?
Okay.
They fixed the price by their service, their price towards the insurance companies. Means they are the buyer of the services.
Some more.
And then they say that the workshop, you can we can only give you discount up to 15% of your total repair cost.
Mhm.
Tomorrow.
And also the labor rate. So we
Wow.
fixed to you already. We only pay 30 ringgit per hour, not more than that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So in that sense,
where
it
I come.
happened. If there is an anti-competitive agreement among the purchaser side
Mhm.
to dictate the
So
price at the seller side, so we
today is
also
the
can
16th.
take action against them.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, I understand that.
This
So
one, okay.
it can happen, yeah.
Yeah, it can
Mhm.
happen. It can happen. Actually, it's a
Yeah.
classic case lah. For instance,
Project
especially it
performance
happens in
monitoring
the
meeting.
agriculture industry, whereby the
Oh,
farmers
okay.
have
Besok ah.
very low
Sudah
bargaining
19
power
ah.
to sell things to the wholesaler, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And because of that, because of the
19
existence
the
of
last time is
monopolies,
ending
means the
6 on 19
single
Can you
purchaser of
remind me?
things. So what happened? This particular fella will dictate the price of all of the farmers.
What?
So because of that,
In the
if
minutes
we
it
go
says
through the
19 if
case
you
law
refer
in
to
other
my
countries,
minutes.
this wholesaler also being punished
Yeah, I
under
can
competition law.
donate this
Mhm.
meeting.
Okay. So
So the
my
same thing, yeah.
okay. One more question is that maybe I miss here and there your presentation. Um, that is about the fee. How about the services? If there is an attempt by the association or by the uh, entities that try to push us out of the business, out of the competitive market, so is it covered also in the MYCC or competitive act, meaning that there is an attempt by the party to exclude us in the business by saying that the we don't have the fee structure and so forth. Is that fall under the competitive act as well?
So, Dr. Sohadi, like I mentioned before to Dr. Atia, so
Okay.
basically, under competition law, we are not merely dealing with a price competition. There are also another
Okay.
aspect of competition, which is the quality competition, scope competition, and so on. So, in that
Mm-hmm.
sense, for instance, let's say if there's a group of the players, for instance, come in a meeting, agree among themselves to kick out another group of the players from the market so that the market will not be congested. Hence, they can dominate the market. So, if we can find there is an anti-competitive agreement among them, it will also fall under our scope of the law.
Mhm. Mhm.
But there is no competitive agreement among them, because it's among them. if there is if the effort has been done by one party, is it considered?
But again, we need to identify whether that party, first, whether it is enterprise or not. Second,
Okay.
second, whether it has a dominant position or not in that particular market. If that one party actually has a dominant position in that particular market, and then it will raise a concern for us to investigate them.
Okay. Okay, I think thank you very much.
Yeah. Any questions from our members on the screen? No, not on the floor, on the screen. Any other questions? Okay, if not, Mr. Hasbullah, I have one question about this project. For example, I'm not sure whether, how do you say this, as a predator or dominant whatsoever. I'm just giving example here. I'm just giving example for us to relate. Yeah. For example, the project of I'm just giving example so disclaimer. Tak tuduh disclaimer. Bahaya ni benda-benda macam ni, ada pula yang masuk ni viral kat ni kan. So a disclaimer, for example, a project River of Life in DPKL, right? So that project is basically a government project. Alright, so it is under did you know the project River of Life, Shazbullah? I'm giving you a big project so that we all can relate to. A River of Life, which is Sungai Gombak, the one that is Masjid Jamik project, the waterfront project. Okay. Okay, so I'm giving you a big project so that everybody could relate, yeah? And then for example, that project has actually undergone a competition. And one company has won the competition. So it's an open competition, yeah. So they got all the process, everything was clear. And then suddenly, the winner of that project, we all know it's ACOM, international company. So by winning that project, so at the same time, you are also you are receiving the rewards as a winner of the project with certain prize, and then you're also being given as a reward to be the main consultant for 2 phases of the projects, because these projects, for example, has 8 phases, so automatically you will get 2 phases, and then the rest of the phases is basically by appointment. So you see this, I don't know whether this is horizontal or this is vertical, but then it is not opening to a bigger market. That's what we concern. So how do you see this happening in our industry? Is it a positive competition, or is it a oppressed competition? Okay, how do you relate that to our act today?
Dr. Hatia, I just want to clarify. So basically, before that project has been awarded to the international company, so basically there's a tender process. Can I say that?
No, it is based on competition.
Okay.
It's a design project competition.
Okay. So
So
there is a
maybe
competition. Okay.
a competition. So maybe we would say, for example, I don't have any data, of course. For example, there are about 30 finalists of that of the consultants basically being approved as the for example, final project submitters. That means after the blind review and whatnot, there are 30. Then there'll be
Okay.
another process that is we call it to reduce to go to the final one until we receive the top 5. All right, top 5 based consultants. So among these top 5, ACOM won the project.
Okay.
So now it is not just winning the project, they automatically reward with the 2 design phases along this project, right? So you got the project, you got 2 phases, and then maybe there'll be about 6 left, and that 6 is also some kind of whether they are not opening to the bigger market. So how do you see this as a positive competition?
Oh, okay, all right. So basically for the first phase, but when we talk about the competition, it is a dynamic process. Okay. So for the first phase, I believe that there is a competition that has been simulated in the market, in the sense of there are players coming in and then lastly, what happened? Ecom won that particular project, if I'm not mistaken, right? So and I think it's a conditional reward in the sense of the organizer themselves award that project to Ecom, right?
Winner. Yeah, the winner lah. Yeah, in this case,
Uh,
yes.
So in which is it a government or what?
It's actually DPKL is
Oh, okay, okay,
yeah,
okay, all right,
it's under
understood.
DPKL. Yeah.
So from that perspective, we can understand like this now. For instance, like in a tender process, it is a competitive process at the tender level, right? But when the winner has been picked up, and then there is no longer competition in that sense.
No, no.
So in that sense, the discussion of competition is quite different as compared to in a market whereby there is no tender arrangement and so on. So from our perspective, from my perspective, there is no issue in terms of that particular arrangement. But in terms of the what we call it the later phase, like third up to until eight segment of the market, and then I think this is depends on the DBKL what we call it condition on how they want to approach that things.
Yeah,
So
it's just
it's
an
beyond our
example.
jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just example, Shazbullah. Because we are talking about opening the market and allow more parties to join in. But then in reality, there are a process that is because MYCC is not just looking at the end product. As you said, it's the process of the competition. So that's why we're talking about this. And we are not sure whether this is the right way or something that is along with MYCC spirit, or it's a separate arrangement. We need to know about that because sometimes we tend to be confused because these people can do but these people cannot do. So that's why and
Another
MYCC
thread
has to
was
be
so talkative.
sorry, anyone wants to say something? Okay, so that's why if you say that there are certain methods that is allowed and there are certain methods that is not allowed, can you help us to differentiate that, Cik Asbullah?
So in that sense, Dr. Atia, basically, when we talk about anti-competitive conduct, we are talking from the perspective anti-competitive agreement. We are talking from the perspective of enterprises, in the sense of players actually discuss about themselves and so on. And in relation to your hypothetical scenario, for instance,
Yeah,
it is actually
hypothetical scenario, yes.
it is actually in the case of a project owner on how the project owner want to approach things.
Okay.
Certain project owner, they want to approach things in the sense of by stimulating the competition via the tender process requirement, which is open tender and so on. And certain project owner, they are comfortable with the request for proposal and so on. And again, there is actually a different type of competition, especially in relation to the procurement side. And again, it depends on the project owner discussion lah. Sama lah macam kita kan. For instance, we want to have a wedding party. So do we pick everyone to come and give the quotation to us, or we actually select a few that we're comfortable with?
Yeah.
So again, it depends on the project owner. But in terms of to regulate them so that they need to open the market and so on, so it is beyond our own capacity.
Okay, all right.
But if there is a G2G arrangement, we might issue the policy advice to them to advise them to open the competition and so on. But they might follow or they might not follow.
Yeah.
So it's different between advice and also the enforcement side.
Okay, all right. So that means in this scenario, today's perspective, I might recap that the competition spirit are not, we call it, even though you say it is horizontal, vertical, but there are certain procedures and process that are still not against the MYCC code of conduct. Yeah. So not everything is wrong, not everything is right. So if let's say we have anything, we can always discuss, yeah, or email with MYCC to get to know further. Right? Is that right, Shazbullah?
No, but we are not giving the legal advice.
But you're not giving the legal advice. So who should we
Yeah.
contact then if we have any issues when it comes to industry services?
So if in relation to the legal advice, better you approach the lawyers lah, so that lawyers can advise you better. Because if we advise you, there will be a conflict of interest.
Okay,
Yeah, because
Dr.
yep.
Atia,
Yes,
Dr.
please.
Atia, I wish
Uh-huh.
to say something.
Oh, yes, please.
I'd like to address a question. This is in relationship to the law,
Okay.
Act 712.
Okay.
The application of the law. Now, in this particular act, it's item clause number 3, article number 3. It says that this act applies to commercial activity. Now, the landscape architect handles professional activity. So there is a distinctive difference here. Now, in this particular act, the commercial activity is described under Article 2 as any entity carrying on commercial activities relating to goods and services. Again, I would like to distinguish landscape architects handle professional activities, professional services. Now, the description of the various terms used in the Act describes goods. It says here, means enterprise means any entity carrying on commercial activities relating to goods or services. So then it goes on to say goods means property of any kind, whether tangible or intangible, and includes all kind of movable property. B, building or other structures. C, vessels and vehicles. D, utilities. E, minerals, trees, crops, whether on or under or attached to land or not. F, animals, including fish. And G, choices in action. All this does not relate to the activities, the services that we are offering. And this is professional services. Now, even though enterprise use the word services, it qualifies that it has to be commercial activities, services relating to commercial activities. And this does not relate to landscape architects. Then under description of Article 2, it says supply. Now, relating to supply, the supply means goods, the supply and resupply by way of sale, exchange, lease, hire, or hire purchase of the goods. And in relation to services of these commercial activities, by provisions of way of sale, grant, or conferment of services. For example, services relating to the cleaning services, relating to repair of of photocopying services, etc. So because of this description in the Act, and I will only refer to the law, not opinion by people or interpretation by any person, we have to strictly relate to the law itself to, to inform ourselves whether we are on the right side of the law or against the law. Now, under Article 3.4, application of this particular Act, it goes on to say, for the purpose of this Act, commercial activities means any activity of a commercial nature, but does not include any activity directly or indirectly in the exercise of government authority. B, any activity conducted based on the principle of solidarity. Landscape architects, if we are a solidarity and we are covered by the Institute of Landscape Architects, that is a body of professional architects, we are excluded from this act. This how I read what the act tells me. Then under Article 3, sub clause 4C, it says it also does not include any purchase of goods or services not for the purpose of offering goods and services as part of an economic activity. We are not participating in any economic activity, sell and buy or resell. We are offering a service. So I would perhaps encourage NYCC relook into the act itself and perhaps give us some grace in the sense that landscape architects, for what we are doing, we are a professional body of professionals. We are granting services to our clients. All these services are differentiated. They are all not the same. Even the sliding scales that we apply, they are depending on complexity of the jobs. They're depending on what type of jobs it is involved. It is all categorized into different categories. And it is also depending on how much soft landscape you are doing or hard landscape you are doing. It is all spelled out. But the primary thing that I would like to emphasize here is the Act provides for commercial activities, commercial economic activities. We are providing a professional service, which I strongly believe that are not, we don't, are not covered by the Competition Act. And perhaps you do not agree with me, but I'd like to hear your opinion.
Understood. Thank you, Ms. Lau. Thank you for interpreting the law. So basically, when you are saying that you are not carrying out commercial activities, mean there is no revenue coming to your side?
Oh, no. You see, commercial activity doesn't mean that you don't involve money, you see. Commercial activities has to be dealing with the actual act of buying and selling and reselling. We are not involved in that kind of commercial activities.
So in that sense, you are not selling your services to your client, isn't it? This is I try to understand your
No.
your interpretation.
Yeah. Yes. There is no provision in your act to say that professional services is an economic activity. There is not provided for that. Your
Right.
description of the act states that specifically that it involves the supply and resupply by way of sale, exchange, lease, hire purchase of goods.
I know. In our law, we are not narrowing that definition to that concept. So that's why when the law is drafted, it is used the word goods and services, and
But you see,
let's
you
look at.
always fall back on your what do you mean, description of the words that you use. In any act, there is a description of words that you use, because this particular act that you provide for the country will be read and interpreted by everybody. Every lawyer that will read it differently. If you go to court, one lawyer will win, one lawyer will lose, because one lawyer interprets it this way, another lawyer interprets it that way. But the judge has to do a decision making. He can only base on the act to say that, well, this act doesn't say that landscape architects professional services is a commercial activity under particular act. Therefore, we are not included in that. And then your act also says that if there is a solidarity of a body, if a particular body of all the landscape architects members adopts what the Institute of Landscape Architects Malaysia prepares for them. And this is a requirement that because we are members of the Institute of Landscape Architects, we have to abide by the provision for the Institute of Landscape Architects. Then it is a solidarity. It is between the professional members itself. We're not targeting to outside people.
Understood, Mr. Lau. Let me explain on this matter. So, although I'm economics trained and not a law trained, but this is the perspective you need to understand. When you interpret the law, it is not merely from the perspective of law itself. Somehow, people will refer to the precedent cases in terms of case law that has been interpreted in other jurisdiction and so on. And because of that, it's considered that for the commercial activity is actually a transaction. Either you are providing goods and services, professional or not, it will be governed under that particular law. unless you can prove that you have a law. As stated is before, there are four law which has been excluded under Competition Act, which is MCMC, MEFCOM, Petroleum, and also the Energy Commission Act. So that is first. And second, the interpretation of solidarity, it is accurate to say that in this particular law, what happened is actually, when we talk about solidarity, is like, for instance, I just give you a general perspective. For instance, let's say we put our money in the EPF. So it is actually a solidarity among the members to put the money into the EPF so that the EPF will manage your fund. So this is the concept of solidarity in that sense. And in fact, there is an actual responsibility to manage that fund so that it will not be mismanaged and so on, as compared to the interpretation of association. That's why in our law, the professional body is considered as an association. So any decision related to the association, if it consists of the anti-competitive agreement, it will fall under the law. And ILAM is considered as an association. So it is not interpreted as the principle of solidarity under Section 3C.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. All right. In terms of precedents, we are professionals. We are professional landscape architects. In Malaysia itself, we only read Malaysia law, huh? Different countries has different law, so we never borrow outside countries' law to apply in Malaysia. So in Malaysia itself, insofar as to professional landscape architects, engineers, land surveyors, quantity surveyors, that we have engineers, these are precedents that you can consider. They are all offering professional services, and they are guided by certain principles, certain terms that their professional bodies requires them to provide. Now, I would like to stress that why it is so important that this professional body needs to set up these terms for its member. One, it is to upkeep the quality of our work. Two, it is to put the profession in the forefront to say that we are worth something. Our work needs to be considered. Now, if you impose whatever we are practicing at the present moment, we are actually encouraging unhealthy competition. There are some members wanting so much to get projects that they undercut their fees so low that they provide a very, very low service. And that is bad for the profession. So these are all the considerations that we have. And we are also governed by the professional ethics of the institution, of the institute. If we break this law, the institute can take actions against us. So there is a solidarity body here. We are governed by certain rules and conditions and terms. When we sign up as members, when we become a member, continue to pay fees that are accepted by the Institute of Landscape Architects. So perhaps MYCC can also take that into consideration. So final thing I wish to bring on is on the Act itself brings on the relief of liability. Under Clause 5, Clause 5 says that notwithstanding Section 4, an enterprise which is a party to an agreement may relieve its liability for infringement of the prohibition under Section 4 based on the following reasons. A, there are significant identifiable technological efficiency or social benefits directly arising from this particular agreement. And I tell you that Institute of Landscape Architects, the body itself is beneficial to all professional landscape architects. It protects the profession. And it is so important that we are now at the loose end. We ask ourselves, why do we need to become a member of Institute of Landscape Architects when there's nothing that this body is providing us? It is not looking after an interest. We are out there able to do whatever we want, and that is very, very unhealthy competition aspect of it. You know, this is a stand that I think we have not considered. You know, but we are all suffering outside. Now, item 5B, it says that the benefit could not, notwithstanding, enterprise which is a party to an agreement may be relieved of its liability for the infringement if B, the benefits could not reasonably have been provided by the parties to the agreement without the agreement having the effect of preventing, restricting, or distorting competition. So all these are law. And I think the law provided in the Act actually provides for landscape architects and Institute of Landscape Architects to maintain what we had been doing before, that there is a guideline for all its members, fees and codes, professional codes, etc. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good.
Oh.
Thanks, Hezbollah. Any comments and remarks on that?
Thank you, Ms. Love. So first of all, we, with due respect, we actually appreciate the existence of professional bodies because the professional bodies is a need to ensure the quality of the profession itself. So that's one. There is no dispute. I agree in relation to your explanation about the Section 5, which is the relief of liability. And for your information, in relation to relief of liability, it actually can be a defense for the enterprises or companies that actually infringe our law, which is under Section 4.1 and Section 4.2. To create a defense for them. However, you need to remember that all of the four elements need to be proved cumulatively. Means from 5A until 5D, it must be proved cumulatively. No escapism. If you miss out one element, and then it is not a strong defense. And in relation to that, in our law, there's also section 6, 7, 8, and 9, the application of individual exemption and block exemption. If you think that your industry needs some sort of exemption, you can apply it by going through the section 5, which is the relief of liability in that sense. However, in the context of enforcement of competition law, and I'm talking about the international competition law as well as what is adopted in Malaysia in terms of the precedents and so on. So it is agreed internationally and worldwide that price fixing is a no-no because it is considered as a supreme evil of the cartel. In terms of the interpretation of the law, I cannot comment further. I think it's better for you to engage with the lawyers because they might have the perspective that can advise you further on that. Yeah.
Okay. So, Miss Catherine, are you all right over there? You okay with the answer? Hello? Sorry. So, Chair Hezbollah, thank you so much for your explanation just now. It's actually a long way and very new for us to read through the law, but the spirit to understand the competition, at least we can grab this morning. One question before we open to our members. If you have any question, feel free to unmute your microphone and say something because it is this moment is very precious to have MYCC with us to really tell us the importance of this act in order to empower our services. Nothing else but the spirit is to empower us. So if you have any questions, feel free. While waiting for that, Chair Hezbollah, I have one question. If let's say in a quite not to say immediate but in the short run, we're going to obtain our Landscape Architect Act because it is already going towards the parliament. The bill is ready going towards parliament. We don't know, but if let's say, can we state our income scale office because we already have our board?
I think we need to have a public engagement. But my suggestion is we are against all the fixing of the fees.
No matter what, whether because we know that Ilam now we basically we retract our Ilam scale office because we do not have act. So that's why my question: if let's say we in the short term we're gonna have act, can we make it in place again? So now at least today we know that whatever it takes, whether we have act or we don't have act, still Ilham Skill Office is not should not appear in the professional services. Am I right?
From if it is a law, then we can do so much. But my system is we are against the price to be fixed either in terms of the law or not. So that's a policy stand lah. So that's another discussion.
Okay, all right. So, okay, questions more from our or discussions or any situations that you came through which you feel like there are some predatory kind of actions or behaviors that happening, or maybe a cartel kind of situation. Would you like to share with us today, our members? All right, Cik Azbullah, my question, because we're going to have this session maybe around, we still have time because our session is supposed to be at 12:30, so we can always discuss. Cik Azbullah, are you still okay with that? You're right? Yeah? Okay. Yeah? Okay. Now, because we have our members also from the government services, from the local authority, Cik Azbullah, yeah? So, do you have any cases that is related to local authority when it comes to we call it a dominancy or predatory or cartel, a situation that has by chance that you came across? Would you like to share with us?
I think no.
Not yet, yeah?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right. Okay, so if that's the case, yeah, I believe that right. So now, before we end the session, Shazbullah, yeah, how do you think, and because last time on your slides just now you were saying, or you were giving us the cases that is basically against the MYCC Act, and what are the relief that you have been imposing on them, and also the penalties that they have to pay. Now, how do you see this competition act, yeah, for landscape architects able to put us in a better platform? So can you share with us?
Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Atia. So basically, when we talk about the Competition Act, we are not merely govern an industry. In fact, we are govern the supply chain. Either you are providing services or goods, no matter what, you need to understand that there is the generality of the supply chain and the totality of the supply chain that you need to understand in terms of industrial framework and so on. And when sometimes people are very self-centered in the sense of they are merely looking from their own perspective. Meanwhile, when we talk about the economy, we are talking about the general equilibrium in the sense of actually there are certain conduct of other players that actually affect you.
Yep.
When they are fixing the price, you keep angry with them.
Yeah.
When they are dictating your price, you are keep angry with them. However, when you do it, that's fine. So there's a cliche there.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that I found that when we talk about the Competition Act, you need to understand what is your responsibility and what is actually happen if someone do it to you. You can always come to us. So let's say other players actually do the anti-competitive agreement. Come and tell us. Actually, these players are doing the anti-competitive agreement. Give us evidence and so on. If you find that there's a dominant player in that particular market and they actually abuse their conduct in that particular market, then of course, if we assess that and there's a merit on that particular allegation, and then we can proceed further in terms of the investigation and so on. And besides that, we also have the provision of market review and so on, just to understand that particular market, because we are not merely looking from the perspective of enforcement, we are also looking from the perspective of policy and so on. And just to reiterate further, when we talk about the Competition Act, we are not merely talking about Competition Act should solve the matter comprehensively. It is merely a tool to ensure that the development of economy will be there. And in fact, there are a lot of other tools that need to be used together with the Competition Act to ensure that the balance and also the growth of the economy to be done in this particular country. So in this regard, I believe our existence is to ensure that there's a fair and balance competition in the market. We are not protecting competitor, we are protecting the competition process. And we really appreciate the engagement from ILAM, especially among the members, to understand our perspective and at the same time invite us and explain to us what is your perspective, so that we can work harmoniously in order to ensure that the economy will be go further in that sense. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah. Just to share with you, Cik Hasbullah, we met our IFLA, International Federation of Landscape Architects, president, Mr. James Hitter. He's from Adelaide, Australia. So he was like, this is also for our members. He was like, when we talk about we are now engaging or in the final state of trying to fight for our act, yeah. So then okay, someone is talking on the other line. Okay, never mind. So I hope you can hear me, Azmullah. Okay, sorry for that. All right. So he said that why Malaysia or landscape architects in Malaysia needs act. You see? Because, and then I was like stunned. I said, because to us it's very difficult for us to proceed with our services without act when all other professional bodies has their act. Like what you said, we are just a tiny dot in between them. But then he said, why do you need it? Because that will restrict us more and that will give us much more liability. But then I believe within these 2 days brief or executive talk that we are listening to Cik Hasbullah and also Dr. Suhardi this morning, I will recap that the spirit is very, very beautiful, right? To have a very healthy competition among everybody in the market, whether it is services or good providers or manufacturers. But I think what we need to go more is actually to understand the value of competitions. I remember the one that you said, when we talk about competition, it is not meant for only putting the low price. So I'm taking this, if correct me if I'm wrong, Cik Hasbullah, that means the spirit of this MYCC Act at 172173 is very, very beautiful to allow Malaysia to go for a very healthy competition. But the culture that brings us for so long, which is the cheaper price is the competition, low price is not competition. So these are basically maybe to me the process that we have to go through. It maybe takes another 10 or 15 years or 20 years to flawlessly be like what's happening in Australia, because the spirit is we respect each professional's duty and services. So that is, I believe, the term of solidarity. We appreciate all the engineers, professional services, architects, planners, QS, and whatnot, and also landscape architects. So there should be no interference or any oppression when it comes to fees or whatnot. Do you agree with that, Cik Hasbullah?
So basically, this one what I understand is like it's more on the harmonious balance lah.
Yeah.
When we talk about the price, it is not about low price or high price. It's about competitive price. Which price that you can offer better to the consumer. Is it compensate with the quality and so on and others, and about the professional scope, as I said that if in fact you can leverage your existence now to other scope also, so that's also a part of the competition, dynamic competition in that particular market. So these are the things that we need to appreciate further when we talk about the competition. It is not a static wise, and in fact it's a dynamic process. And when we talk about dynamic process, somehow if we start with our own world and then we can go further.
So yeah, that's why we see that. Remember during AGM, I always say that in this spirit of competition, the one who give the best service, or when you can give a very good quality of services, so you're open for any fees that you can basically coin for yourself. Am I right, Cik Azbullah? So my fees and Cik Azbullah fees, for example, we are both landscape architects, might be different. because I am this level and you are at this level, for example. So is that the spirit that you are basically trying to tell that you go for it, do your best, and charge whatever you want? Is that the spirit that we are at the end of the day, we are agreeing towards?
So just on your, whatever you want, it depends on how you cost yourself lah. Let's say if you put too high, people will not come to you, and if you put too low, people will have a skepticism towards you because they think that the quality that you will offer might be lower. So again, from our side, I believe that it depends on how you want to market yourself in terms of your own product rather than rely on a set of scale of fees just merely to cover and back you up.
Okay, all right.
Because
Yep.
sometimes because when throughout the business period I believe that everyone has your own reference transaction in the sense of what are the previous price that you have charged before, and of course I believe that it depends on customer to customer basis. I think there's a strong reason to use that as a guideline too. So this is just a perspective from my side. Thank you.
Yeah. So there'll be no strong yardstick to go through, but it is open based on your professional practices. Yeah. Okay. One last question, maybe Cik Azmua, because we haven't touched in terms of advertising. We've been talking about the act and also manufacturing. We haven't touched in terms of advertising because I remembered before this 2010 act, as a professional, we are not allowed to advertise our services in public, for example, on TV or whatsoever. I remember last time when even now, even the dentist, the Sensodyne toothpaste advertisement, they will say it is endorsed by the dentist. So, but the dentist didn't appear by themselves to say this is the best toothpaste that you should use. So, now in terms of marketing and advertisement, we see that with this act, we are now allowed to advertise and to publicize our services through social medias or through the printed media. So, could you please elaborate on that?
That one I'm not sure in terms of the law from your side, but if there is no prohibition to market that, you can proceed with that. But of course, again, I think you need to check on that because certain profession they just don't allow people to market the services because of another implication later on. So if there is no implication in terms of your side and so on, I think that's fine.
So to MYCC view, that means doing a public advertisement of your consultancy firms is actually allowed.
If
Without,
there is no
yeah.
if there is no law, what we call it, reject that. There is no law stop you from doing that lah.
So far, I think there is no law that is stopping us. It is just that one clause from your slide saying that we should not advertise our fees publicly. That means, yeah. So I think that is the clause that we are using. That means you can advertise your general services, but not to talk about your fees and whatnot. So I believe using that clause. So from today's discussion, to all our members, you can publicize your services, but not to put in your rate or anything that has to do with money. So, but you can, yeah, Dr. Swardi, yes.
I think, Dr. Tia, I think we have to be careful on that. I think that is related to our code of conduct. It's not something related to the fee. So before we encourage our member to publicize their service, we have to really into that matters before we go against our code of conduct.
Yeah,
right?
of course we have our code of conduct and whatnot, because for so long we know that we are not allowed to do that. But then through MYCC Act, when you allow a positive competition without by using your clause which is not using the price and whatnot, we see this much more, and also the pressing needs of advertisement, social media and whatnot. So we thought that that could be one of the ways for us to keep on doing a marketing or services. So Dr. Swadi, yes, of course, we have to go back and look at our code of conduct. But in terms of MYCC view today, as long as it is not involving any scale of fees or any rates or percentage, then we are allowed to do that. Basically, yeah, Shazbullah, and it is not against your act.
Yeah, like I say, as long as there is no implication of law in that sense, I think that's fine. My own view on that.
Yeah. So yeah, and also my own view, and of course I will give it back to Dr. Suhardi to go back to the councils and see the appropriateness and whatnot, because we know that ladies and gentlemen, ways of doing business is different nowadays, especially post pandemic, and struggles are real, and money matters is something that is what we call it a benchmarking, whether you survive or whether you lose in the industry. And we're talking about the real thing in landscape architecture industry. So that's why today with this executive talk talking about MYCC, the Competition Act, what are the do's and don'ts, and what are the spirit that allows us to be much more prominent in the industry and be much more significant among the professionals that we are working with our own professional ability. So we trust, we believe that this 172 and 173, the spirit is nothing else but to promote a healthy industry competition in Malaysia. Yeah. So with that, before I end our call again, do you have any question for Cik Hasbullah? Right? So, but if anything, Shazbullah, of course, Ilam will need to have further engagement with MYCC. Of course, we are certain issues that already been raised by our members need further deliberation and see how could Ilam really facilitate our members to continue to give their best services in the built environment industry. And Dr. Swadi, myself, and also other council members are also here. We know that this is just a starting point of the discussion. It's not the end, but it is just a starting point to understand and to leverage on this MYCC Act for our professional services. So, Dr. Swadi, before we end the session, any few words from you?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Atia. I just would like to thank all the participants who, in particular, the members who have joined the session this morning. And I think all of us can some knowledge and benefit on behalf of IAM Council. I think we will further engage MYCC to understand how can we formulate something for the benefit of our members. And of course, I'm very much intrigued with clause number 5 and 8. All right, something that we need to further study and we need to have further discussion on that matters. So on that note, I would like to thank I-KPKT to allow us to be here today, share the platform with I-KPKT, as well as with MYCC. Cik Hasbullah, thank you very much for your talk and for your explanation regarding MYCCs and Anti-Competition Act, and also the other officers of MYCC that I believe are also here today. So thank you very much. We hope we can have further discussion after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swati. Once again, thank you, Shazbullah. Thank you, Haja, Azhar, and all our members. This is a very, we call it a very dull session talking about act and whatnot. But Shazbullah and also Dr. Swati, congratulations. You made it very, very enlightening for us. You made it very, very close and relate to our industry. So thank you so much. We can't say a lot of things, but definitely we really appreciate your support towards Ilam and also to our industry. Not finding us with that 10 million is already a support by MYCC. Thank you so much. Only after 5 years, 6 years, I'm able to be face to face to you and say thank you so much, and we will see what would be the measures that can really help our members in accordance to your act that's already in place. So once again, thank you to all our participants. They are here, Cik Hasbullah. They are here on our I-KPKT Webex link. They are also on our YouTube link, and they're also on our Facebook link. So and this will be basically on our Ilam Facebook page. For maybe some of our members are not able to be with us today, so they can always cope up, and that will give much more a bigger understanding, and also understand the deliberation of your acts much better. So before we end, could you please switch on your video so that we can take photos together? So maybe our host on I-KPKT can help to take some photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Terima kasih semua. Thank you everybody. It's
Thank
such a
you.
very fruitful punya session. So
Thank you.
very good. Okay, now semua orang minta on video.
Yeah.
Yang tengah drive tu senyum saja.
Boleh on juga, tak ada masalah.
Okay, boleh je senyum aja tapi concentrate di jalan raya. Okay, Cik Muhammad Abu Bakar bin Yusof, gambar belum keluar. Ini first page ya. Sekejap. Lagi. Okay, yeah, alright. Okay, 1, 2, senyum.
Okay, second page. So I think everybody just smile because we don't know whether we are on second page ke first page ke, senyum saja lah ya.
Senyum aja. Cik Mio, kenapa Cik Mio pakai mask? Cik Mio buka lah mask. Bawang. Oh, tempat awam. Okay, kita husnuzon. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, senyum. Okay. Sebab dia punya okay, next page. Okay, ini tak apa-apa. Okay. Kita ulang balik ya sebab ada yang baru keluar muka. Okay, kita ulang. Okay.
Ulang balik. Kena senyum balik semula. Kena ulang balik ni senyum.
Kena ulang balik. Okay. Ada 4 batch. Okay, senyum semula. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Sabar. Senyum. 1, 2.
Tarik nafas.
Sabar. Dia lagi tengah open. Okay, sabar. Dia tengah. Okay. Okay, Cik Khairiza duduk. Okay. Encik kuning ni siapa ni? Encik kuning ni tak keluar lagi. Khairunisa pun muka dah hilang.
Nak claim seperti ni kan? Nak claim seperti ni kena ada gambar
Betul.
Kuning ada masalah teknikal sikit. Boleh teruskan lah.
Okay, sekejap ada adjust kamera. Okay, ada tengah adjust kamera. Puan Nur Hayati tengah adjust kamera. Okay. Alright. Cik kuning dah ada. Puan Khairunisa. Puan Khairunisa dah hilang tapi dia tak boleh. Okay. Dia akan cuba masuk. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next page.
Tetapkan senyuman.
Okay. Wah, Puan Juwita, Puan Hashim sangat cantik.
Semua cantik-cantik Cik Hasbullah. Lensa kita ni lawa-lawa. Handsome tau Cik Hasbullah.
Wah, Cik Mio ada Jepang, takut. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Page 3 ya.
Page 3 tak ada kamera. Okay. 4 pun sama. Page 4 pun tak ada kamera.
Page 4 ya.
Okay, habis dah.
Okay, right.
Semua.
So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you Miss Maha Lakshmi for being with us from MYCC. Welcome, and then thank you to all the supports from MYCC once again, and see you again, Shazbullah and the rest of our members. Stay safe, be confident that we are doing the right thing on the industry, and stay persistent, and be proud of our services and who we are, landscape architects. We green the earth and we green our heart. With that, thank you so much. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Semua, bye.
Bye-bye.
31 ni pun ada another session saya buat promotion. Bamboo, this is the first virtual class. So Cik Mio Abdullah Zaidi will conduct a live virtual teknik-teknik untuk buat organic architecture using bamboo. So everybody dijemput untuk daftar online dan masuk dalam session tu on the 31st of this month.
31st of March, yeah? Alright. So welcome to our next webinar series, 31st of March, with the bamboo experts, yeah? Cik Mio Zaidi, right? So thank you KPKT. We are not able to do this without you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all. Bye-bye. Thank you Dr. Atia Mama. Okay, thank you. Thank you Cik Hasbullah. Thank you Dr. Suhardi. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Berapa ramai follow dekat FB, Azhar?
FB tak dapat masuk, line tak cantik. Kita ada YouTube. Tapi kita akan masuk juga dalam FB nanti. Video dalam YouTube pun kita akan start balik video daripada awal. So dalam live streaming ni mana ni? Okay, jap. Okay, dalam live streaming banyak yang dah keluar tapi tadi ada banyak.
Yep,
Ada 20 dalam live streaming.
Alright.
okay.
Campur semua dalam 140 lah.
Oh, okay. Alright. So congratulations I-KPKT.
Congratulations juga Ilham. Okay. Jangan lupa hantar borang. Saya nak bagi brief.
Okay, I read the chat room. I read the chat first. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
See you guys later. Okay, goodbye.
Yaza, thank you so much. I'll leave the chat room first.
Okay, bye.
Bye.